Here are three essential elements to be successful in anything. The first one is what Martin Seligman describes as learned optimism. So you have to believe something's possible. You have to be optimistic. And you can actually, as the book suggests, you can learn to be optimistic. And it includes, there's three key things really. One, if something goes wrong, you don't say it's down to you, you say it's down to some other factor. So if you're having a bad quarter in sales, it's because one of your big customers, is indisposed or can't do the business this week, or you're on a bad patch. It might sound like making excuses, but basically you externalize things that go wrong. If something goes right, it's down to you. It's because you've done a good job or you're really good. The second thing is if something goes wrong, you make it specific. So you say, well, that's just a one-off. That went wrong, but it doesn't mean everything else is going to go wrong. Whereas if something goes well, you do the opposite. You say, oh, right, well, that's because everything I do goes well, and that's basically what an optimist does. They if something goes wrong, it's just a specific thing. But if something goes well, they say it's down to them generally. And the third thing is, if something goes wrong or something's bad, it's a temporary thing for an optimist. So just because it hasn't worked out this time doesn't mean it won't work out next time. Whereas a pessimist would say, oh, well, that's just typical of my luck. It never works out for me. And again, the opposite. If something goes right, an optimist would always assume that, oh, that's because it normally goes right for me and it will carry on going right. Whereas a pessimist will say, well, I've been lucky this time, but that doesn't necessarily mean that will happen every time. So those three key elements, which when you're aware of them, you can actually make sure you think that way, and therefore you can learn to be optimistic. And everything proves, all the evidence proves that more optimistic people are more successful, happier, live longer, wealthier, etc., etc. Second thing is what Carol Dweck refers to in her book Mindset as a growth mindset, as opposed to a fixed mindset. And what she means by that is that a growth mindset means that you believe that nothing is fixed. You can improve in anything, including your abilities, your intelligence, anything that you do. So whatever it is you're doing, it's not a given, it's not fixed. You can improve. So long as you believe you can improve, you'll put effort into improving. Whereas if you don't believe you can improve, which is called a fixed mindset, then there's no point in putting any effort in. If it doesn't come easy, people just don't try any harder. So the growth mindset, that comes alongside, if you like, trying harder, working at getting better. And then the third key element is goals. So goals need to be SMART, so specific, measurable, actionable, so you can do something about them, relevant to you, and time-based. So you need to have, a written set of goals that say what you want to achieve specifically and when you want to achieve them. They need to be personal, positive, and present tense. So that's the other rule. They need to be written, and it needs to be a written plan, because if it isn't a written plan, it won't get done. And once you've got a written plan, you need to be held accountable by someone you tell you're going to do something. It doesn't have to be everybody, but just someone you trust. You tell them that you're going to do it, and you ask to be held accountable. And if you get those four key elements into goal writing, and you combine it with being optimistic that you can actually achieve them, and growth mindset in the sense that whatever you need to learn or become better at in order to achieve them, then that gives you the secret of success. Now, what I've got here is a round table, and this is what Napoleon Hill describes in the How to Grow Rich. Yeah, How to Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich, that's it. He describes this as one of the 13 key steps to riches. Become part of a mastermind group, so a round table or a mastermind group. And if you're in a mastermind group or a round table, you get all of these things, because you'll meet other positive, optimistic people. You'll meet people who believe it's possible to improve, otherwise they wouldn't be there. And you'll be able to, you'll help others set their goals, and they'll help you set your goals, and then you hold each other accountable. So all three elements of those are covered off by being part of an alternative board, a mastermind group, an advisory group, however you'd like to call it. If you think that sounds interesting and it might be something you want to know any more about, have a look at businessroundtableuk.co.uk. And if you think there's anything of interest there, we can maybe have a conversation. Hope you found that interesting and useful. And thanks very much for watching.